This
Saves our time.
conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. Let me quickly reiterate, as this is also another kind of demonstration, because one of the participant hasn't joined yesterday, but it will be a little bit quicker, okay, than yesterday, and we'll cover the day one, some of the concepts in day one, as we already started past 8. Okay, so these are the different concepts that we included in the course. What's your name, Ganesh? Yeah. So as you told, you have only knowledge on get and post request, but that doesn't have to do much with the APIs and web services. There are so many bunch of concepts. Even before we have to do automation. What is automation, by the way? It has to reduce the manual effort, correct? So we have to be thorough in first manual. So manual means functional QA perspective. So we have to understand different tiers of architecture. We have to thoroughly understand what is soap rest, why statelessness, understand query and path parameters, different request and response headers. Whereas CRUD operations, those revolve around the different HTTP verbs. Okay, so and why some of the HTTP methods are safe, why some are non-safe, correct? So what is safe, what are non-safe? If you are curious enough, you can tell right away. But yeah, that's one of the important thing. So we have to be thorough in first our fundamentals in functional QA, which helps us to deal our automation tasks, whether it is REST assured, character DSL, etc., in our latter point of career. First foundation is thorough in concepts, solid in concepts. Then we have to understand JSON. Means if you are thrown at a random JSON, like um, complex JSON, if you are thrown at a complex JSON, uh, example, we have to. I know that you have seen JSONs by now. Okay. JSON nested objects. Okay, let's go through this. I'm not sure why it is loading so slowly. Yeah, if we are given few of the nested objects, not this much simple, but multiple nested JSON structures. So we have to be confident and comfortable enough to understand what we are given through the JSON, how to construct a JSON path, and if we are asked to construct the JSON schema, we have to construct it, and if we are asked to validate it, we have to further validate the JSON schema by communicating with our developer teammates. Okay, then as you told, you are already using Postman. You might be understanding few of the concepts. Similar concepts and a little bit more detail we will be covering through collection runner, some of the third-party libraries like Newman, HTML extra library, Faker, its importance, and how to use Faker through Postman. And as documentation is pivotal for step one, we have to understand how to create and publish documentation through Postman, and especially what is mocking and why it is required, and how to mock an API. So if you have gone through my yesterday session, you will get an idea that this course is not just theory. Rather, these 25 sessions are created in such a way for a newcomer or a person who worked in a different aspect in his or her career, want to switch for API QA roles within short amount of time, and to be deployable, and to get the Jira user stories and tasks and to start work along quickly. So for that particular point of view, this course was designed. Okay, it helps the newcomers, and it helps the persons who worked in a different technology or stack altogether and want to achieve QA roles, okay, in their jobs and project assignments. Let's get back to our concept. Prem and Venki, just give me a couple of more minutes. I will start. So working with SOAP API request using Postman and go through the API lifecycle, like if someone talks about how to create, build it, design the web services, like web service analytics, means there are especially three entities: publisher, manager, and consumer. If API will have these three roles, any of the three, any one or more of the three roles. So if that is the case, if someone talks in this vocabulary, we have to be comfortable enough to understand. Then we will discuss about Wiremark and Fiddler to a decent detail. These are the third party tools. Wiremark is open source, we can use it. Okay. Then the pivotal hands-on concept is, even though everything is hands-on, but this has gained its own importance, like API chaining. We don't as you already told that you worked in some of the get and post requests, correct, Ganesh? So
Yeah,
if that, yeah. So if that is, hi Jyoti, if that is the case, you don't atomically work with one API. So if you want to fetch employee details through an API, you have to work with set of APIs: employee get, employee create, employee update, and etc. etc. So there is a chain. First, you have to get the details. Then, if the employee's record is not exist, then you have to create. Once you create, you have to ensure the record has been created by doing another get call. If the requirement is to update, you have to update, and you have to again get whether you have to chain another get call after the update to see whether the employee record has been updated properly or not. So here there are multiple sequence of APIs. So for that, API chaining is a concept that has to be understood. That can be achieved through Postman or in your automation tasks also later. So that has to be understood properly. For that, we'll approach Spotify third party. Uh, Spotify has its open source developer documentation. Instead of just telling that theory, first we have to understand the concept, then we have to implement the concept through hands-on. So that's the core idea. So we'll discuss Spotify and we'll mock, as we already has understood mocking, and we already understood wire mock here. So let's use those concepts to mock the existing uh, APIs. Then there is another concept called assertions. So we have to, there is a concept in Postman in their vocabulary called tests and request scripts. So there are multiple ways we have to, in multiple ways we have to test the APIs. Okay, we have to test the headers, whether the request has properly went to the server. Once the server gets the request from the client, how it is responding, with what's, whether the response is successful or erroneous or some other issue. So yeah, for all these different aspects, we have to create the test cases, and we have to test through the assertions. To test the assertions, we have to leverage the existing libraries called chai and lodash javascript libraries, etc. We will discuss that as well in this particular day. Then another pivotal concept is authentication and authorization, and we will discuss basic, digest, form based, API key based, and OAuth especially. So API key based and OAuth are pivotal in these few years. Okay. In OAuth also there is OAuth 2.0, which have been actively being worked upon for the past 3 to 5 years. Then for that we will use either Dropbox, developer documentation, third-party API, and or Spotify, whichever is available at that point of time. Will leverage that. Once we understand that, we can use the JWT. We call it as JOT, and we have to, once we understood JSON in the previous. Uh, 1 second, someone joined. I think Jyoti left, I believe. Some network issue. Not sure. Let's continue. Once we understand JSON, then it is time to understand and build our knowledge on top of JSON with using JWT. How it works, JWT hands-on using any of the Spotify or Dropbox or any other application, or Twitter, for example. Then we'll understand Twitter open source, because in real time we are thrown up tasks to accomplish, and we are given limited documentation. In such case, for the complete beginners, or for the ones who are achieving, who are looking for QA roles, be it a manual or automation. So this is essential. So for that, this particular session has been designed. Okay, in live we'll refer through the documentation available, and we'll have to create our own use cases and build on top of that, like API chaining, mocking, whatever. Then DevOps is one of the important aspect that is essential. Let me close the door. DevOps is one. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So DevOps is another important aspect that QS, some of the QS are being looked from their aspect. Okay, so we'll understand what the continuous integration, continuous testing, or continuous development platform is. One such platform is Jenkins, and we'll try to integrate our Postman APIs that we have created until now through Jenkins. Okay, then this is another add-on which is not completely related to us, but it is very essential to understand Git basics, especially command line basics, in a comfortable manner to do our day in and day out tasks, like creating branches, doing commits, pull, push, resolving the conflicts, merging and resolving conflicts, then creating pull requests. All essential things which are required to survive through Git in our day in and day out IT jobs. Okay, so this session is for that. Then, as we already understood Git and continuous integration, continuous testing concepts, let's leverage GitHub Actions, and we'll run our API tests through GitHub Actions this time. Earlier we used Jenkins, now it is GitHub Actions. Now, for the past 5 to 8 years, microservices are gaining popularity, and we'll understand the basics. Means if someone talks about microservices, you should not be like German for us. So we have to understand the concepts, and we have to build on top of it. Okay, there can be any of the use cases in your teams, but these are the essential concepts which are your jump start can be discussed. Microservices is a vast concept. We can lay out another course specifically for microservices if you want, but here in these two sessions we will introduce you to, as you are already comfortable with APIs until here. Now it's time for us to jump and lean forward to understand microservices. Okay, then we'll create a Spring Boot real-time application, and we'll integrate with MySQL DB or H2DB, whichever is available or whichever is possible at that time, and we'll have a holistic understanding of API implementation. Then for this is for completely newcomers, or for the persons who doesn't have awareness on developer workflow and tester workflow, and this is for that. And we'll create a real-time Jira project, and we'll try to understand the high level developer workflow and tester QA workflow by creating from the epics until assigning the defects and defect lifecycle, etc. And we'll create sample test cases which are specifically for API. Throughout the course, we'll create the test case, but on this day is specifically for QA test cases. Okay, we'll cover all the probable combinations which are frequently used or frequently referred from the point of functional QA. Cool. With that being said, I hope that clarified or that gave context to the newcomer Ganesh. Um, yeah, this others who join from tomorrow onwards can refer to the recording sessions. I value Prem's and Venki time as well. Ganesh, it gave you the enough context, I believe. Let's go ahead and start our session. I hope I'm clear, Ganesh. Hello, uh, Venki, I'm audible, correct?
Yeah, you are
Yes, sir.
audible.
Okay, yeah. So cool.
So, Krishna, I have a
Venki,
question. So, what are the tools that you're gonna use here to while explaining all these concepts?
as Postman is one of the prominent tool in each and every project. We'll explain Postman, but all the concepts that we implement through Postman can be achieved in another tool called Insomnia. I happen to work with this tool as well. Let's call them as REST clients or API or web service clients. Okay, so Postman will be used throughout the course.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you
let's start
do
with our.
that git pull push everything, git connection and everything through this Postman itself, right?
Uh, Postman and Git are separate entities.
Yeah, but see that link up, how I can say, the project cloning and push and pull
Hmm.
everything you will be doing in Postman, right?
Project clone. Um, 1 second. So yeah, so this is the existing. We'll create a project, or we'll clone the existing repository. Let's call it as repository. Once we clone it, we'll create a branch, and we might create sub branches also, and we'll merge this and we'll do all our commits in this particular branch, and we'll create a pull request so that this branch gets merged to its parent branch, or the master branch, whatever. At that point of time, we can merge one branch to any other branch. So that can be master or some other branch as well, but the concept is the same. Once we are doing at this particular point, we'll erase, as you are not the only one person who is working on this repository, as there are multiple persons for which distributed version control is essential. Then there is a high chance we'll get into conflicts. So how to resolve the conflicts, and how to again merge this branch using the pull request, etc., to the main branch. So that is another aspect. And pull push are just like day in and day out tasks, no? So everything will deal means from zero until comfortable in Git will achieve in that particular session.
Okay, Krishna. And earlier, I mean, at the beginning of the class, you have mentioned, right? There is a one more session for the purely for automation, right?
Hmm.
So, you are the one who is teaching. I mean, who is going to teach
Yeah.
those course as well, that course as well.
Yes, I'm the one. So I will take functional QA, automation QA. I worked in performance testing. So yeah, yeah,
Okay.
have the focus for this particular course for the benefit of others. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me directly. Yeah. So let's value other time as well. But I'm open to any questions. You can throw me any questions. I'll be there, empathetic for you to clear them. But just bear with me for some time, and we can ask the questions at a uh, little bit later, so that I'll clear everything. Yes. Okay, Venki, can you tell me what is the API, what is the web service? Any idea, or can you try? So there are these two terms like API and web service. Those are interchangeably being used. Can you try,
Like
Venki?
in terms of like abbreviations or like technology
No,
side,
no, no,
like
no.
it's the
Don't.
same.
Means I'm not a fan of abbreviations and by heart. Whatever you know is just in simple terms. Also, you can tell simple terms. If you understand any concept in real time, simply, in simple terms, it will be registered in mind. So I'm just curious to know what is an API, what is a web service. Is there any difference, or both are the same?
Okay, like so,
Just try, Venki. No issues. Even if we fail, we have to learn from that point. No issues. Let's have an engaging
so like
conversation.
so both are from the developer perspective only. So this API can be modified and everything can be leveraged at the developer side, and we can use it as per our customization with the help of like headers or methods, and everything can be done it. But whereas web services, we can I did not test much on that, but
No,
as
no
far as
problem.
like only with the HTTP or HTTPS protocols like that we can do that.
Cool. So, by the way, what is the need for industry or IT industry specifically to move towards web services? What is the use? What is the need? Can anyone tell? Just to the benefit of time, I'm telling a little bit quickly. Reusability. If something is already existing, no, if there is another need to work on the same thing, why to create from the scratch? Why can't we reuse? If we have to subscribe to it by paying a few amount, why can't we do that? So that is the concept of web services. There are few providers which will provide their web services through open source. There are some who can charge. For example, Twitter recently came with Twitter version 2, their APIs. They are chargeable. Okay, if you happen to use them, you have to pay money. Okay, but there are some other APIs, etc. Um, like Spotify has few APIs where you can use them. Okay, like weather API, like we discussed yesterday. We if your team is building an application which has to use some of the tiny bits of weather, like getting the weather for a particular location, if that is already available, why can't you use it instead of building it for months and months by investing money and resources and time? So that is a concept of industry moving towards API and web service. Okay, but first try to understand what is API, what is web service. So in as we have already just now understood, so have you been into development, Venki, or it's okay? Means just to tell the concept, I'll show one example.
Yeah, I'm not into the development side. I'm into the QA, manual
No,
as well as with the performance
no,
side.
no issues. Development is not essential, but just try to understand. When I mean not essential, that doesn't mean uh, we don't have to learn it, but it is a beautiful concept. If you happen to work on it earlier, it's okay. If not, also it's okay. I'll show it in a clear way to you. Okay, let's go to Sun. This is the Java 8. Okay, Java 8 jar that comes inbuilt, so that I can show to you in real time quickly. So there is a package. We'll call all these as packages only. Okay, so if you go to any package called integer or math. Okay, let's take addition as an example. Okay, big integer. Let's go to here and let's go to structure. So understanding the concept is first for achieving a functional QA role, then automation comes into picture. So even then automation is hyped much, but the functional QA role, if you don't perform and if you are concentrating only on automation, that is not a proper approach as per my understanding. Yeah, so we are on the track. So let's take a this is a method. Okay, don't go through, okay, why SK is showing all this. So I'm not in development, but just focus on this particular line itself. That's enough. Don't ignore all these highlighted lines, just focus on this line. Okay, just earlier what we have discussed, reusability is the purpose, correct? So if you are asked to calculate, or if Venki is given to write a method to add two integers, okay, then Venki has to start the coding, etc., etc. But there is already a package called math, and there is a class called big integer, where there is already a method called add that is already available. Here, indirectly or implicitly, we are we are reusing by what we are reusing. We are reusing the JDK Java library. We are not hand coding from the beginning. Some seasoned professional developer has already hand coded this. We are just using it by supplying a value. If I supply a value to it, it will add and give me the result. If I supply two values to it, it will add these two values and it will give the result. Okay, it will subtract, it will add, etc., etc. Okay, so here you have to understand this single highlighted line, team. So and we have to interpret the meaning. Okay, so an API is a program or the code that uses another third party library like JUnit, TestNG, or here in our current example it is JDK, etc., etc. So all the existing open source libraries, everything has are come up every open source library has a list of APIs, as you can see here in this highlighted section. In our example, it is JDK. Okay, so what are those libraries? Collection of classes or interfaces which are having internal methods like this, add, etc. Okay, add is one method, subtract is one method, multiply is one method. Okay, these are all different methods. Okay, each will do its own specific task. Okay, libraries are built on top of these existing methods, and these are called as APIs. This particular method is called as an API. Okay, this is your API. Then what is your web service? If Venki deploys this particular, do you know the meaning of deploy, Venki? If not, we can discuss it later in some other session. But treat think that now Venki want Prem to make this accessible. Then Venki either have to share this particular class, or Venki intelligently can deploy this in some cloud platform. Once you deploy in any cloud platform like AWS, etc., you will be given an URL. Okay, Venki's brilliant website. Okay, Venki's brilliant website.com. Okay, .com, and as a path variable, here you will add, you will give this path variable add, and you will provide 1 2. Okay, you will create a method like this. Once Prem access this https, okay, https // okay, this is your URL. Once Prem accesses this particular endpoint, okay, by by referring to the documentation, giving these two values, that Venki has already developed and deployed to a cloud environment, or in his inbuilt servers. Then Prem will get the response of 1 plus 2 equal to 3. Okay, and Prem can reuse in his particular application. Okay, the 3, and he can display in his Angular UI or some other UI. This 3 value he can display by accessing this particular endpoint or this particular URL. Cool. So this is your web service, and that is whatever you are seeing here is your API. Whatever you are seeing here is your web service. Okay, same concept, but once it is available in HTTP or HTTPS, as you mentioned, Venki, once the particular API that is deployed and available publicly, or it is available through HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that will be termed as your web service. Hope that is clear, Venki and Prem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's your API and web service. Ganesh, can you did you see a different perspective now? What is a web service? What is an API? Okay, he is on mute. But it's okay. So in your upcoming job interviews, or if you are a fresher, you will be asked these questions like, what is the difference between API and web service, and what are the different types of web services? So different types of web services are, initially the industry started with SOAP web services, as we have discussed yesterday. Now the concentration is more towards RESTful architecture, RESTful web services. Okay, so SOAP and RESTful web services, and in recent past there are other web services like Facebook uses, called GraphQL, and gRPC that Google uses, etc. But that is totally all together a different ball game. But RESTful, if you are comfortable with RESTful, that is your foundation for GraphQL, or for that matter gRPC, etc. So okay, RESTful is 80% of the industry are now turning towards RESTful web services, and even migrating SOAP web services inbuilt mechanism into RESTful. Okay, there are projects, team members who are continuously working in their sprints as well to convert the existing SOAP legacy web services into RESTful as well. Okay, that is its benefit, because they are lightweight. Okay, so now we have understood what is meant by a web service and an API. These are the different benefits of the web services. Like team productivity can be increased, because we are not hand creating from the scratch, as we have understood just now, correct? And optimal utilization of cost. How did you optimally utilize the cost, Winky? Because I'm paying, for example, 10 rupees, and I'm not investing my 1 or 2 months of time. I'm just paying 10 rupees or 100 rupees, example for example, and I'm using this particular, I'm subscribing to this particular weather API for these particular 3 to 6 months. For these 3 to 6 months, I can use, I can invoke this particular API as per their contract. Okay, 600 times, 1000 times, or any number of times as per the demand and supply needs. So thereby we can optimally utilize the cost, because time is everything, correct? You are saving 3 months of time to develop weather APIs by just investing few amount of money to the web service provider, and you are consuming your APIs and you are a consumer. Okay. Then another important benefit is collaborate between multiple third party APIs. Okay. So by using varied tech stack. Okay, one API which is developed now Venki has developed using Java. Okay, now Venki in few months he'll learn Java as well, and once he is uh, understanding Java, he'll create these APIs, and after few months there is in Prem's project there is a requirement for Python. Okay, so Prem develops these APIs in Python, and now Venki can use the same Python web services in his project. Okay, by just calling the endpoints. If so, that means that Prem can develop in a totally different language, different tech stack, and Venki's project can be in a totally different tech stack. But both projects, both requirements and needs can be communicated through web services. Okay, so these Python code or machine learning, any code can be called through web service endpoints, and Venki can still use them, even though Venki doesn't have to do anything with Python, because his project is based upon Java. Still, he can use Frame's web services. Okay, that is a benefit of collaborate between multiple third-party libraries, etc. And this is understandable. Build multiple features on top of existing for the underlying products. Okay, these are just for your reference. I will take uh, uh, what is it, empathetic time to create the notes for every of our day discussion sessions. Okay, and I will include the probable interview questions also. Okay, so which can be asked from the session. Okay, along with my day's job work. Okay, so it will be, the intention is it will be useful for our team members. Cool. By the way, Ganesh, can you tell me which enterprise architectures have you worked in your project? What are the different architectures that you happen to work? Can you quickly tell if that's okay? Because we already joined late. I suggest a team to join at sharp 8 if it's possible. Maximum 8:05 will start. Today we started at 8:20. Ganesh, if you can talk, you can talk. Else you can tell to continue. I'll continue in the favor of time.
So please continue.
Okay. Yeah. So there are different types of architecture, like three-tier architecture, monolith architecture, microservices architecture, like distributed architecture, SOA, service-oriented architecture, request-driven, event-driven, etc. So I happen to work with multiple architectures like three-tier monolith microservices and Kafka request driven architecture also. But let's try to understand these in a decent to high level. Okay, so what is the three-tier architecture? Three-tier architecture has different layers. So what is three-tier, Venki? Three-tier, let's call them as tier. Okay.
Like web app and DB server.
1 second, I will tell Venki, just bear with me a moment. One, two, three. Okay, and you are correct. You are on the way. This is your UI. Okay, this is your middle tier. This is your database tier. So database can be represented like this. Okay, so now why the meaning of three tiers come into existence? So one is to structure the application in such a way so that it can be scalable. Scalable means if any new request or new requirement comes, it can be, our application have to adapt to that. Okay, we can easily extend the coding. So for that point of view, there are architecture suggested. One such architecture is three-tier architecture. So this is your UI or presentation or front-end tier that we are highlighting here. Second is middle tier or back-end tier. This is your middle tier. Okay, here all the languages, like all the beautiful websites. For example, if you and me are given like this, if Venki is reserving for a bus or a train, if Venki is provided with this kind of data, he's in a hurry, but he doesn't have to go through all this developer kind of view, no, all this technical view. So just backend, this is your backend will give this particular information to front end. Okay, so and front end will intelligently represent through the labels or text boxes, etc., etc. So this is a human readable format, correct? Human readable. And for here all our APIs and web services come into existence here. Okay, APIs will deal here. So Venki will will access redbus.com. Redbus.com UI, he will log in and he will create from, and he will access from and two locations. Then the request will go to API and middle tier, and middle tier will request to the database tier and check whether the buses are available or not. And by invoking inserting a, or asking through a query, SQL query, and database will reply to the web service request, and web service will again give that information to the front end, and Venki can see the list of buses from Hyderabad to Warangal, for example. Okay, he can see all the list of buses here. Okay, so if Venki is given a big JSON of the list of buses of from and to, yeah, that is also okay. But middle tier's role is providing taking the request from the front end and providing a response, and front tier's role is to display it in a beautiful format. Okay, so that is your three-tier architecture, Venki. Hope that's clear. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
uh, yeah. So second is monolith architecture. Monolith architecture means one large code base or the repository. Okay, let's take this particular repository, shop me web parent. As GitHub is open source repository, it contains um lakhs and lakhs of open source repositories. Okay, so this is one such repository. Okay, but before even going through this repository, someone has again. Okay, it's fine. So before even going through that repository, just try to understand what is one large code base. Okay, so just try to understand there is one big bag which is containing everything. Front end code is there, back end code is there, all your logos are there, like these kind of PNG images, logos, like HTML pages, JavaScript, small code snippets, and everything at one place is nothing is your monolith application. Okay, or monolith architecture. So it has its own advantages and it has its own disadvantages also. One such monolith architecture you can refer to here as a Shopee web parent. You can find the front end logic here. Okay, just if you are curious enough, you can go through this. Okay, front end code, main, etc., etc. This is your front end code and front end resources, etc. And as we have discussed, like so everything all that we discussed here, no. Okay, is available under one umbrella. If that is the case, that is your monolith architecture. Okay, in some cases DB can be separated, but that's okay, that's a different concept altogether. But if everything is under one umbrella, that is your monolith architecture. So what is the advantage of it, Venki? Now that we understood what a monolith is, what is its advantage? Because I always show interest in engaging conversations, because
Yeah.
at one end, if I yeah, because at the end it has to benefit you. So that is the only my intention of asking or to trying to interactable. Okay, it's okay. Not knowing is not at all an issue, but start knowing from that point.
Sure, sure, sir.
Go ahead. So can you term some advantage of this monolith architecture? at least one or two. It's fine. Even if you don't know, also it's fine. But I'm just trying to understand.
So like while deploying or something, it's means it is tightly coupled. So it is already
Hmm.
been linked to one component to another component. If any one of the services is down or something, so all the other components will start not working, will stop
Absolutely,
not working.
you are banging on the target, Venki. Super. Yeah, you have termed one advantage and one or two disadvantages also. That, that's good. So, for example, if Venki is given another API to create, so here the structure is already existing, correct? So he doesn't have to create another service altogether from the beginning, and he doesn't have to create the framework from the scratch. The framework is already existing here in your as your package structure here, as one layer is talking to other layer, etc. Now Venki has to simply plug. So Venki has to create his own service layer or the code, and he has to simply plug that code into the existing API layer, which is available in your monolith application. Only this part Venki will take care. Okay. So hence the development is little bit easy. The concepts also, as Venki has been already working on this particular monolith architecture for few years. He is well versed where to plug the component, of how to create, etc. Existing developers also knows that quickly, so the development time is also quicker. So that's one that's one advantage. But what is a disadvantage? Okay. If for example if this is this is your Kafka logo, correct? If I have to change this particular logo to a latest logo, my UX team member has provided another logo to me. Then or the code that fetches the logo, the JavaScript or the HTML or the React code that fetches and displays the logo, has also one or two lines of code change. Okay, one logo change and two to three lines of code change have to deploy the complete monolith again. Okay, until you deploy the complete monolith application again, you you don't have the facility to see the end result. That is the greatest disadvantage of monolith. You have to deploy the artifact altogether. Okay, and the time to market is very slow with monolith. Okay, so we'll come to its disadvantages of monolith and microservices in the below, but that is the idea. Okay. Now these are all for your notes, like distributed architecture. Okay, there is another session, as I mentioned, correct, like discussing microservices architecture at that time. One second. Here we are discussing asynchronous, synchronous, REST, GraphQL, Kafka, etc. No? This particular day we'll be creating a sample application if that requires. Yeah, tell me. I'm more into POCs. Okay, so if you really want to see how Kafka works, we'll definitely build that application on this day, along with covering other concepts also. But on this day, we'll discuss more about this particular where is our distributed. One second. This particular distributed architecture, Kafka. Okay, on that particular day we'll try to understand the distributed architecture, like Kafka, etc. But this information, instead of having nothing to be discussed, this is I have gathered these images for you to understand what is SOA architecture. 10 to 15 years before, when I started my career, at the time SOA was booming. Okay, where all the individual services are built atomically, and they are getting registered in the enterprise service bus. Okay, you don't have to understand all this, but just add this concept so that you will understand where we are currently. We are currently at the microservices age. Okay, all the applications mostly, 6 out of 10 applications are moving from monolith to microservices these days, team. So now we are in a age of microservices and API and microservices specifically. Okay, cool. So at that particular point of time, 15 years before, all the individual services were built, and all these services talk to their own databases, and all the services are registered to ESB. We will call it as ESB, enterprise service bus. And you and me will invoke the request, will reach enterprise service bus, and it further communicates with the services, and these services will further communicates with the databases. That is how so architecture works. Okay. And request driven, event driven, as I just told on Kafka demo session on the day, we'll discuss. Okay. I'll give this particular PDF also at the end of every day session. That is the intention. No, this is not for me, this is for the participants who are getting registered to the course. Okay. You can just click this link and you can route to the system design of event driven architecture, this video. It will be a good value add for your knowledge. Okay. Cool. With that being said, as it is already 9 past 3, so what is it means we are all working from office or etc. No, so until how much time we can extend? I'm not sure where your what is your location, but you can tell me. Can we extend for some more time, or we can continue it from tomorrow? Because my humble request is please join at the right time, folks, so that gives me enough chance to go through crystal clear and go through a complete detail. What I will plan 10 things to discuss. No, those 10 things I will demo it or discuss it in the particular day session. Okay. I know Venki has joined on the time, and Prem might be joining a little bit delay. I can understand that, but please try to join on the time from tomorrow onwards. Um, can you tell me how many more minutes we can discuss so that I can continue, or we can
I
continue
will
tomorrow?
we can start tomorrow fresh. I have got another call to catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, your voice was feeble, so you are telling to continue tomorrow, is it?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Okay, then have a nice day. I hope we will join on at 8 a.m. Ganesh, if you have any queries, you can directly reach out to me. I'll clear all your doubts. Thanks for joining.